how does it feel technically being a college dropout and still empowering and providing employment to so many people?
Yeah, so when somebody says this and then it just hits me. Otherwise I just keep forgetting it. But when I see, and because they're coming and working for me, and indirectly I'm kind of like supporting their families.
Exactly.
So it's just like a huge responsibility. And then people, when you say that you're from NIFT, they think like the lifestyle is so cool, you just get to chill, dress up well and go to these fancy parties and stuff like that. But not at all. It's not like that at all.
Hello and welcome, guys. Welcome back to our podcast. After a long break, today we have Geethika Kanumili with us, the founder of a fashion label that goes by her brand. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much for being very patient with me.
That's fine. Let's get to know you a little bit. So please tell us what pulled you towards this industry.
I was always very inclined towards like dressing and things like that. So I think by my third grade, I decided that I have to be a designer. So I used to play like a lot of dress up games and stuff like that. So I was introduced to the internet really early because my uncle was an HR and he would, make me do some stuff on the computer and, like copy pasting some things and stuff like that. And I stumbled upon these websites that have these dress up games and like the Barbie.com and like many other things. And then I was just so into all these things. And then he saw me, playing all these dress up games and stuff. And then he's like, what this is called? People who make clothes, they're called designers. There's this college called NIFT and things like that. And that's how I got to know that, there is this thing called, a fashion designer, and then there's a special college for it and things like that. And also I think it's my mom's influence because she would spend like a lot of time dressing me up and doing things like that. She got married really early, like at 17.
Okay.
So obviously she was a kid too, and then she was playing like a kid with me as well, and then she was spending a lot of time in dressing me up and doing these things. So I think it started off from there.
So that bug hit you when you were in probably your third grade, and then as you grew,
in my third grade, I knew that I had to be this. So I want to be a designer. I have to go to NIFT. So these are the things that I decided in my third grade.
So you knew about NIFT at that age?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks to my uncle though, yeah.
But then a lot of people I see nowadays, they really get confused between styling and designing. Because I personally know a lot of people who have joined per se NIFT thinking, it's going to be like, oh, we are going to make this person wear this thing. And then they go to college and they start off with like designing a pant. It has to be stitched in this particular Then they realize, okay, no, this is not what I signed up for. So there's a huge confusion between that. So for people who are watching this, can you just differentiate what's the difference between a designer and a stylist?
Like study design and then become a stylist. But if you want to become a stylist and you don't have any interest towards the designing side, then that's like a huge mistake because you literally have to like work your ass off and like it's not at all fancy. So people, when you say that you're from NIFT, they think like the lifestyle is so cool. You just get to chill, dress up well and go to these fancy parties and stuff like that. But not at all. It's not like that at all. You just have to work so hard, and because it's a merit-based college, right? So the best of the best people are there, and then everybody tries to be their best, give their best and things like that. So it's very competitive. Designer actually makes clothes from the scratch, and a stylist just picks these designed clothes and then, styles a person by understanding their basic style, or, it depends, are they styling them for an event or things like that. And then they put all these things together and then that's how you style them with all the accessories. It goes until the makeup part. So it's just like putting an entire look together. So that's more like sourcing, understanding the other person's style and just putting things together.
There's a huge difference between
there
both.
There is, yes.
So as a designer, like you said, your job is to design a particular apparel from scratch, right? So where do you as a designer, you in particular, draw your inspiration from?
I think just about anything and everything, and mostly it's the nature. Yes.
So you design apparel like, I'm not very familiar with the terms, but it's like collection wise.
Just say clothes, right? It's fine.
Yeah, your clothes, whatever.
Yeah.
which come out every few
Yeah,
months
2
or
times a
something.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're called collections, right?
Yes, yeah.
So they're called collections because they also have to be not just in trend with what is going on, but also with the weather, I believe.
Yeah, but not so much. But also, I mean, when it comes to me, I don't really believe in trends. So
Okay.
how they say like spring, summer, autumn, winter, and things like that. So we actually don't use any of those terms because I think it has to be, usable all around the year and things like that. And I don't want like the previous seasons to just go waste when the new one comes. So, that's when the sustainability aspect also comes in and all these kind of things. But it's called a collection because you have like a certain inspiration. The entire team works around that and you kind of like pull the entire collection, together with this strong inspiration that you have and things like that. So
What's your current inspiration or the upcoming collection that
no,
you're
that I
working
can't
on?
tell you. You'll have to wait and see.
Okay. So you just mentioned something about sustainability, right?
Yes.
So how serious is the
practices.
matter
Okay.
with regards to designers coming up with, like, for example, you said you come out only 2 times a year, but there are brands who come out with collections maybe every 2 months, 3 months, right? So how sustainable is that, or how hard are people working around that?
Okay, so I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
So for us, sustainability is like a very important aspect even in our workplace. Even to the tailors, I literally tell them not to waste, So I'll tell you how it started. So when we shifted our production office, when we actually moved from the previous place to the one that we have now, I actually saw the amount of waste that was, being transported and the amount of waste that was going out of the office. And then it just broke my heart because you know where it's going to just end up. It's just going to go in the landfills, right? So that's when I started looking for actually during COVID, I started looking for these recycling companies. And because that's the time when I had like lots of like these shampoo bottles and blah, 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 like all these, like all the, skincare stuff and everything. So that's when I started looking for these brands. So my packaging part was sorted. But then when I saw like so much fabric go out of the office, it was just very sad for me. So that's when we came up with this idea of like doing some patchwork stuff, reusing a lot of like these waste materials. And we made so with the material that we could not actually make clothes, we made like huge cushions and we just gave it to people. And, we did things like that. And right now, everybody in the office is very well trained. So they know what to do with these pieces. So there is like very, very less stuff that goes out of the office, especially if it's fabric. And for the packaging part, we are sorted because we have all these recycling companies and stuff. So we call them once in a while and then we get that thing sorted. So that's how it's happening right now.
Nice. So now there's this question I've always wanted to ask every time I would happen to meet a designer is, how different is the process of coming up with a design, for example, the bride? Okay, and also let's just say her friend or a close relative is also probably going to wear your label. How different is that whole process of designing their outfit from scratch?
I mean, it depends on the person's choice and their flexibility as to how much they want to, spend, or there are many factors actually. But ideally what we do is so even let me tell you, so when we do like these custom orders, right, we usually don't save pictures, take pictures, or I mean, when people send us those pictures, yes, they're there with us, but we don't really want to show those to other people because they're custom made, right? So we like to try and understand the client, the requirements. We kind of like have like a proper sit down meeting and then we send them sketches and then that's how we do it. We like to do it very personally, but obviously there should be a difference between the bride and somebody who's going to attend a wedding, but that depends on many factors. So we have a lot of clients who are like these wedding attenders, but they want to look heavier than the bride. So we have like people like this
So
coming.
that's like the clause they come to you
Yeah,
with?
yeah.
Okay.
So I want to look the best. I want to look the heaviest. So it all just depends on them. But we do like a proper sit down meeting and then we try to understand their requirements and we like custom make things rather than just showing we've done all these in the past. You can just get these things done.
Then it almost becomes an inspiration, not a...
Not an inspiration, but it's like a very personal thing that we do.
No. If they happen to see other custom
there's
work, then
a
they take
very thin line
inspiration.
between inspiration and copying. That's just like, I mean, I think for clients that's not a bad thing to do, but for us, especially for me, I mean, I cannot do the mass making. I can't go that way. You know, I was so dumb. Like when I initially started, obviously I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't work anywhere. I didn't have any prior experience, right? I thought whatever I make, it has to be like a one piece thing. So you buy something from me, that's just going to be like one piece for you. I didn't even know how like a business works because that's not how it works, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I still think that's there within me that, you know, you have to like come up with newer stuff because that keeps me going. Because I'm honestly not very interested in the business side. I find it very boring. This actually keeps me happy.
So like you mentioned just now, when you started, you had no idea, you didn't work anywhere. And tell us the story of how this brand came to life.
I quit college in second year. I think like after one semester I quit. So in the first year we did like, so that was like a foundation program. We had all the basics, the design. You must be knowing how, I mean, it's very similar. So we had all the design basics and stuff. Second year I quit and then I was just lost, but I know what I wanted to do. I always knew where I wanted to go. I knew that I wanted to, you know, start my own brand and things like that. But it was just me and my mom would just go to like these fabric stores and just explore, go to Charminar, see how people are working, just visit these random stores. And it was just like very practical, honestly. I just jumped into it and then I learned it. That's all. I didn't even know how to speak Hindi, and without Hindi, nothing works here. Like, I was so bad. I'm like very grateful for all these people that stayed with me since then, because those people actually taught me how to speak Hindi. They actually taught me a lot of things. So even when we have this pattern guy who does the cutting and like, you know, the actual cutting work. So what I would do is every day after going home, I would go on YouTube, watch these tutorials, you know, for this pattern, how the cutting is done and things like that. Because you can't look like... So when you have a business, you can't look like you don't know anything, right? So yeah, I think I just learned everything in a very practical way. It took a long time, but yeah.
So now do you have NIFT graduates or interns from NIFT?
Yeah, I do.
And do they know about this story?
Yeah, they do. They do.
What do they have to say? What kind of questions do they have to ask you?
So they'll be surprised. So they want me to, you know, tell me about my journey. How did you find this? How did this happen? And all these things. But yeah, so whenever an intern comes to me, what I tell them is it's not just about sitting and sketching and, you know, making designs in your sketchbook, because there's a lot that goes into running a business. So I just tell them, so the minute they step in, I'm like, I'm just going to put you all into like different, you know, segments. Just take up whatever comes your way, because the experience is so important.
So that's one thing of you going to the market, exploring, learning Hindi, figuring things out from YouTube and stuff. But like you said, business is a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Everyone's learning.
I'm like
day.
really bad with the numbers
knows.
and stuff. See, all I wanted was, I just wanted people to like wear my clothes and go to like parties and stuff. That was my only goal. And then I just worked towards that and I just ignored the numbers and, you know, that part. So, which is why I'm still learning and figuring out. And now we have people to help us. And so
how did you then scale up your business from there?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's just the work that we did, all the hard work and, you know, the good relationship that we had with clients, and, you know, it spread mostly because of these references and things like that. It didn't happen consciously is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So then when did you first feel like, you know, you as a brand have arrived?
I don't think I have.
No, it's some
yet,
form.
But yeah, we are at a good place. I think now, maybe this year, because a lot of changes are being made. I'm able to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. For example, a lot of things, which we will tell you later. But yeah, I think this year, a lot of progress there. So yeah.
So a little bit about the fancier side of things. When was the first time you got a chance to make an outfit for like maybe a Tollywood star or somebody from the film fraternity?
I do not remember. I think 2016 or something. So, you know how stylists pick clothes for these actors, actresses, and
I have no idea.
you don't know. So, stylists usually reach out to designers and pick stuff from us, and then, style actors, and then when they wear and they post, that's how.
You gain traction, yeah.
Yes, that's how it works. So, I think it was in 2016, and it was for, I think, PV Sindhu or Trisha. I don't remember, or Rashmika.
What I also want to understand next is what is your vision for the brand? Is it to go global or to style a particular Hollywood actress or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have all these things in our minds, but the most important thing that I'm looking at is making occasion wear sustainable. I mean, it is, because you don't just buy it like the regular fast fashion stuff, but also at this point we are trying to use more natural fabrics, because the minute you say this is natural, the first thing that comes even to my mind, actually, I just think of like these loose clothes, these very like airy, breezy, I think you know what I mean. So those kind of like shapeless silhouettes, but and there's like a lot of poly fabric that's been used. So I am actually trying to like work on that side. So I'm just figuring out these biodegradable materials and stuff like that. So that's my goal, actually, to use more natural fabrics, because I myself do not like wearing polyester stuff. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice, but I don't enjoy them at all. Like I feel like I'm at my best when I'm like in my cottons or these other natural fabrics. So I think I want to somehow get that into occasion wear, and that has to become stylish. I mean, it cannot just be these saris, these, I mean, it should not be boring. So I think that, and also to educate people, so when they next time when they go to buy something, they should be in a place to ask, what is this made up of? So they should know what they're buying. So yeah, that.
Now that we've spoken about your vision with the brand, I'm a firm believer that the way you dress up actually not just makes you visually ready for an occasion, but also instills this particular kind of feeling and confidence and whatnot when you're attending an occasion or something, right? So as per you, what do you imagine or expect for a person to feel when they are wearing your label with comparison to some other label out there?
I think definitely they have to feel their best and things like that, but I don't want it to be like in a very toxic or a competitive way. So that's what I was saying. So when we have a client that comes to us, we try to understand their requirement, and then we help them look better. I mean, feel better, actually, not look better, feel better and confident, I think.
So it's feel better and confident, nothing in the sorts of, like make them feel powerful or...
I mean, you function at your best when you're in something that you're very comfortable, is what I believe. And the design aspect, the style aspect and everything, that we convince you and like we tell you what is the best, and obviously from your inputs and stuff like that. But yes, figuring out what they are comfortable with and tweaking it a little, because they're coming to us for a reason, right?
It's a blend of your inspiration and their personality is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, probably understanding their personality and giving them something better to make them feel better.
And what do you have to say about a lot of young kids now? With, for example, you started out in the year, 2014?
15.
2015, right? But it must have been in the works in 2014, right?
No.
Oh?
I mean, I always knew. I went to college in 2014.
Okay.
No, 20.
15.
Oh my God, I'm so bad with all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to like have a brand of my own and stuff like that. I would just have these sleepless nights even in my first year. Leave alone like my college, just after giving my NIFT entrance. All I would think is there are so many brands coming up. How do I make it? I don't know. Because obviously, how do you know? I would just keep thinking about these things even after going to college. I think every night, I wouldn't sleep most of the nights. I would just go on Instagram was very new at that point. I would just be obsessed with all these like, some of the brands, pages. I would just look at the content. How will I do this? How will I get here? How do I make an actress wear my stuff and things like that? Like, a lot of noise in my head. I actually very abruptly like ended college. Like I didn't have that in my plan.
Okay.
So yeah, I just quit and then I knew what I wanted to do, but but there was a phase in between where my parents wanted me to get a degree first, any degree. They're like, just do something distant. I mean, but that's actually not my parents, but it's more of like,
Societal
the
pressure.
influence and things like that. But it was quite okay. I mean, manageable. I mean, at that point, it was really hard.
It's easier when you're doing something and not just sitting at home.
Yeah, so the thing is, when I quit college, I was sitting at home. I mean, I was just trying to like experiment, understand, do these things. But all these people who are around us, they want to know why she's not going to college, why is she at home all the time. And then my parents didn't want to tell, so they would just like say things like, oh, she doesn't have to go now, it's done, and things like that. But after a point, they had to like tell that I quit college.
What advice would you have to give to, let's say, a person who was like you in 2014, a person like that exists now? What's the kind of advice or mentorship would you want to
I think stay consistent and be original. Be original, I mean, that's going to take some time because you'll have to figure out what you like. You have to figure out your style. Me, I was very lost. So I took some time to like understand these things and all that. But I think now when you have like a proper degree and everything, instead of just jumping into something, probably first like, sit, be with yourself, see what you like, and then start off. Not just because, okay, there's this brand, it's working well, so I have the resources, so might as well just go and start a brand. Just get people from here, because now it's very easy, you know where to find people from, where to find fabric from, but that's not it. It doesn't work like that. I mean, if you have to stay for longer, you'll have to do a lot more things.
Yeah.
So I think be original and stay consistent.
But when does one decide that, okay, fine, now it's time for me to establish a brand?
I think there is no time like that. But if you have like your basics sorted, and then you can just like dive into it.
What are
and
the
like
basics as per you?
that's what, like, you have to figure out what you want to do, your style and all these things. I think this is like the main part that you have to like think about and then start.
Okay. So another question what the younger kids who are trying to get into the same industry would want to ask you is, what is your design process like? Is there like a particular ritual you follow, or a particular time of the day that you like to sit down with it, or
So
what
I'll
is it
tell
like?
you. So one example is, I was just watching this movie on Netflix with my sister and my friend, and and then I just heard some tune there, and then that kind of like stuck with me, and then that was actually Beethoven's music. So, and then I went back and I just kept listening to all his music, and that's how we came up with like a small Christmas capsule.
Okay.
So it's just very random, but I think you just have to like stay true to your inspiration and like work on it, rather than just like getting lost into like the internet stuff, because the minute you open Pinterest, there's like million ideas bombarding you. So yeah, I think it's a very personal process, to be honest. I don't even know how to tell. I mean, I can tell you the steps that are involved, but I don't know.
Like, for example, this one, let's talk about this particular instance that you told about the Beethoven's music. You went back, heard. So was it like you heard it and then you're like, okay, now I need to
So now
sit
I
down?
know
Or
what kind of mood that the music is putting me in, and then Christmas was approaching, so I had this whole idea in my head, the mood going on in my head, and then I put some pictures together and then did some like rough sketches, put things together. So you know what, when we have an inspiration, even at the office, we kind of like try to put all these pictures together, references, just some random pictures to set the, you know, the
Mood board,
tone,
basically.
yeah, the mood board and things like that. So everybody's on the same page, and you know, we work towards it.
the whole design arena is still under you, or do you have
No, it's under me.
still under
Yeah,
you?
I can never let go of that.
So does it ever happen that you started out with a particular zone, let's just say like for the Christmas you started off with Beethoven's, you put some sketches together and stuff, and then midway through you're like, no, I have to redo this same
Yeah.
zone, but like scrap everything and
Yes,
start scratch.
it does
It
happen.
happens.
Yeah, it does.
So
And then you just realize, I mean, there's like a lot of time and, you know, everything,
Exactly.
a lot of resources also that go into it. But sometimes when you just don't feel it, you just like tape
so what
everything off
happens with? So does it also happen that you started out, with the first? I don't know how it works, like the cutting, stitching part of it, and all.
No,
halfway
no.
through, and then you realize, okay, no, let's
No,
just
I
change
think it
something.
never went till to that. To that extent, everything just changes. Like when you, so we make like some rough sketches and then detailed sketches where you actually can see how the outfit is going to look like. So sometimes it actually went to that stage and then went back to zero, and then we actually had to like start over.
So, like, what's like the morale of the team then?
It's okay. Everything's for the better.
With how many staff members did you start your brand?
One tailor and one master and one non-Hindi speaking girl who was just like, I think I was just acting, and like, you know, I still don't know how it worked and how they understood me, because they were not able to understand Telugu or English, and I didn't know how to speak Hindi at all. Like,
And
I
then
was
most
so bad.
importantly, your YouTube
I wouldn't
knowledge.
say a word. Like, not even a word of Hindi would come out of my mouth. I was like that. I would understand. But yeah, now I like speak Hindi, like broken, but like very much manageable. Like people won't even know that I don't know Hindi. So
Nice. And right now your team is strong. How many members?
I think we are around like 50-ish now.
Overall, including the store and the production
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Also for us, for at least for me, I've seen people, I mean, work with like 200, 300 people, I think and I don't know, for me it's about efficiency and like, you know, all these
not
things.
just efficiency.
And also it has to be like a family and like all these things happening.
Yes.
I mean, if there is a need for like 200, 300 people, definitely you have to. But yeah, otherwise.
The reason for me to ask is with how many you started and with how strong your team is right now is not just with regards to, how many do you want to go for and all. With the whole intent of asking this was, how does it feel technically being a college dropout and still empowering and providing employment to so many people?
Yeah, so when somebody says this and then it just hits me. Otherwise I just keep forgetting it. But when I see, and because they're coming and working for me, and indirectly I'm kind of like supporting their families.
Exactly.
So it's just like a huge responsibility, and then it just makes
like,
me
does it
work
ever
harder.
happen you're at the warehouse or your workshop and you just step back and see, okay, like,
No, I'm now at this point, I'm responsible for all these people, their families. So I just better, work hard.
So when do you plan on expanding next now? Like, do you wish to go outside Hyderabad or outside India?
So we are retailing in like many of the multi-designer stores across India. Some places online in other countries as well, but a brick and mortar store, I'm not sure, because online has made it much easier. And also because there are these other multi-designer stores and everything. I think we are
but
pretty
don't
much...
you feel the online takes away that whole essence?
Yes, it does. So which is why we do not have the online shopping available. Like even in our website, it just directs you to, to our stylists and, these sales people, because we want to like personally,
So
understand.
does it ever happen that your end consumer happens to reach out and travel from a different city?
Yes, they do. And that's again like another, like a reality check that happens to me, that if people are willing to travel for you, better be working more harder.
That's nice. So, before we wrap this up, I just want to ask one question. What advice would you give to any youngster who's watching this, not just with inclination towards fashion or anything, just who have a dream like you did when you were small? How do they go about it, and how do they not let that fire within them die?
When you are that passionate, I think there is no plan B, to be honest, because if not for this, I don't know what I'd be doing, because this was my only goal. Like even when I was in college in my 11th and 12th, I was so clear. I know why I took that degree. It was because I didn't like math. And I just had to have a degree. And then I wouldn't even give these tests or anything of that sort, because I would rather spend my time doing something that I actually want to do. So I would be very much invested in like the pop culture, what is happening, always staying up with the trends, just going and like, I would do window shopping so much you won't believe. At one point, you can just like bring some piece of a garment and ask where this is from, I would tell. So that's how updated I would be with everything that's going on. And, I think you just have to be really passionate enough, and then, just don't go for the fancy tags and stuff, because honestly, this is not a fancy job. It's a very like, you'll have to...
The sales part of it looks fancy. That's
the storefront looks fancy and all, but I'm not trying to say this is like really hard, very boring and things like that, but I don't know, like you have to put in a lot of work and like be passionate enough and like be true to yourself, and at least have that clear idea why you're starting this business. Is it for the money or is it for what? Just be clear. It's okay. And then just follow it.
Okay.
But like be consistent, stay original, ethics very important. Learn how to like make connections. Don't be short-sighted. Just these things.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for being patient again.
And guys, if you like today's podcast or you feel it will help any of your friends, then please do like,
share and subscribe to Project You.